Their firepower and mobility were even greater than during the early blitzkriegs. Greater still was the Soviet power. One Nazi crewman reported, "It seemed as if we were driving into a ring of flame."
The unknown war will continue in a moment. The unknown war.
Many of the Nazi tanks foundered in the minefields in the first half mile. The Russian batteries picked them off in minutes. It was carnage of a kind not seen since the terrible battles of the First World War. Tank commander said, "We had been warned to expect resistance. Never have I received such an overwhelming impression of Russian strength and numbers as on that day." Few Porsche Tigers and Ferdinands broke through in isolated groups. The new Panther tanks were less successful. Everywhere they were hounded by the Soviet infantry. The Nazis exercised local superiority in the air. But everywhere over the battlefield, their strength was contested. The Luftwaffe was not allowed to become a decisive factor. By the end of the first ferocious day, the Germans had lost 25,000 men and 200 tanks on the northern edge of the salient. And they were still mired in the first line of Soviet defenses. The second line was stronger still. On the southern flank of the salient, where the 48th Panzer Corps and the 3 SS armored divisions were attacking, the fighting was even fiercer. spearhead managed to dent the Russian line, the only action that was anything like a success. Under intense fire, the SS were forced to spend the night in the swamp. The sun rose at 4 o'clock on the second day of the battle, and with it came the Russian fighters. They destroyed 70 of 1 Panzer Division's tanks in 20 minutes. All through the second day, the Germans struggled to exploit their modest success in the south. 2 of the SS divisions clawed their way forward nearly 4 miles. The battle raged for a week. The Nazis poured in reinforcements. By the night of July 11th, they had driven a bulge 15 miles wide and 9 miles deep into Vatutin's front. That night, Zhukov released his reserves, the 5th Guards Army and the Rodnistrov's 5th Guards Armored Force. They were fresh, confident, experienced, and their ammunition bays were full.
The Unknown War will return in a moment. The Unknown War.
The Germans scraped together every tank that would run, some 600 of them, and began their last drive. The main Russian battle tank, the T-34, faced heavier equipment, Tigers and Panthers. But while the German tanks outgunned the Russians, they were slower, and the Panthers could be set afire with ease through their lighter engine armor. The T-34s were faster, more maneuverable, and more numerous. Through the hot morning of July 12th, the 2 armies closed for the most terrible armored encounter of all time. A brutal slugging match in clouds of stifling dust and oily smoke. Just before noon, they met head-on. By nightfall, it was over. More than half of the German tanks had been annihilated. The rest were in full retreat. Stalingrad had been a psychological victory. Kursk was an undeniable triumph of Soviet arms and generalship. It had been, as Marshal Konev put it, the swan song of the German armored force.